Hello, this is David Cross from Indispensable Leadership, and I am here at the lovely town of Newtown, here at the historic Presbyterian Church of Newtown. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you along a virtual tour, give you a kind of a idea of what a tour would be like out here of Washington Crossing, one of the great, of course, leadership moments in the history of the country. And I'm going to give you an idea. It's an absolutely gorgeous day out here today, really the first beautiful day of the year. So I want to give you an idea of what this tour would be like. Of course, when Washington gets out to this area, he's been running for about a month. Everywhere in New Jersey, from Fort Lee over to Trenton. Now he's gotten over to this side. We're over on Pennsylvania, on the side of the Delaware River, so he's got a river to protect him. Now I'm going to give you an idea of this beautiful church that we're going to be looking at. This is the first stop that we take on our Washington Crossing tour, which is a tour that not only deals with Washington crossing the Delaware and the first Battle of Trenton, but the second Battle of Trenton and the Battle of Princeton. So, you know, those 10 days that really define a country. Here you see the church erected in 1769. This was obviously here on Christmas of 1776 when George Washington crosses the Delaware. Newtown is the supply depot, and the reason is it's the county seat, it's centrally located, and it's less exposed to enemy attack than Delaware, other places. Now, what Washington is dealing with in this particular occasion are the Hessians. Hessians were the individuals who were fighting on the side of the British. The Hessians were fighting because they were paid to do so, paid quite a bit. I'm not saying each of the soldiers was paid quite a bit, but the British paid an astonishing amount of money to get these Hessians involved in this war. And I just wanted to give you a look at this particular trap door here that goes into the basement. This is where Hessians were held prisoner after the battle. They were brought out here to this building. So, you know, when we talk about chasing American history, we're going to the places where the history actually happened. And as you can see, we're at the back of this church, where we have this lovely, today anyway, graveyard that we're taking a look at. And I want to introduce you to a couple of people. Let me see if I can dig them up here. Oh, not literally dig them up. Let me see if I can find them for you here. You know, this is a Presbyterian church, and of course there was a significant Presbyterian population. There was also a lot of Quakers. And one of the things that's going to happen before we have this battle is that a lot of these Quakers are going to come on to the side of the Americans. And that's because the Hessians are not doing a great job at winning the hearts and minds of these people. A lot of ugly affairs happen, a lot of murder, a lot of pillaging, a lot of raping. There's one story where a particular Quaker refused to take his hat off for a Hessian. Of course, a Quaker, a true Quaker who really lives, you know, walks the walk as well as talks the talk, he doesn't take his hat off even if he's with the king. I love the story of William Penn getting in trouble for refusing to take his hat off with a judge. So anyway, when he didn't take his hat off to these Hessians, the Hessians all attacked him, and this nonviolent Quaker showed that he could be violent. It took about 4 Hessians to pull out their swords and to force him to lift his hat, but as you can imagine, he wasn't a friend of the Hessian or British cause after that. Here we have James Slack here, and James Slack's an interesting guy. He was 19 back in 1776. He lived with his father Abraham, who's out here. I think we can find him. He's out here pretty close to James here. And he's a guy who knew all about boats, knew all about rivers. He was part of the Makefield militia. And he is actually going to be on the very first boat that crosses. He's going to help George Washington and his men. You know, you're going to have some locals out here who are going to be able to help out. And so he's one of the people who does that. He's going to be on the very first boat that crosses the Delaware. Here we have some extremely old grave sites here. This here is William Keith. And William Keith was the owner of the Washington headquarters, which I'm going to show you later on. Here we've got Abraham Slack, who I already told you about. And if you're wondering what these things are in front, these are medallions to show you that these were individuals who fought, in this case, in the Revolutionary War. So behind we have a individual who fought in World War II, as you can see. So number of graves that are very old here. I want to take you to one in particular, but here's the back of the church. And when Washington is out here, he's aware that there are all these Hessians right across the water out there in Trenton, and he's got a number of concerns. The situation is dire, to say the least. They lost the battle in New York. They had a devastating loss out there. And as I say, they've been chased around for a month. And the British think this war is all but over. So George Washington needs to do something dramatic. Part of the reason he needs to do something dramatic are a lot of his men are going to be resigning. And so he wants to get a victory to try to talk some of these people into coming back. Here we have Samuel Keith is on the top of this headstone, a number of people. Keith is a pretty common name out here, an important family. And here we have that one of these people was a veteran of the French Indian War, what we call the French Indian War. In America, what everybody else calls the 7 Years' War. So anyway, George Washington is concerned because he needs to buck people up. He needs to get a victory. Also, he's concerned because if the Delaware freezes over, then the Hessians, as well as the British, who aren't far away, they're off in Trenton, they can all just march across the river. Washington has been smart. As soon as he arrived here, he made sure to take every boat that was parked along the way of the water, any boats that were in anybody's backyards. He took every boat, and he made sure that the British weren't going to be able to pick any boats. So here he is out here on the Pennsylvania side of the Delaware River. The British have pretty much decided that we've had some great victories and we're just going to hang back and probably relax for the winter. And who knows, maybe the weather will end this war and we won't have to do anything more to end it. George Washington has other ideas in mind.